Touchdown, buzzer beater, do it all now. All now, top corner talking home run. Touchdown, buzzer beater, do it all now. All now, top corner like ooh.
All right. Hello, everybody. It is Monday, April 21st, 2025, and this is the Monday Report. I'm your host, H. James K., and today we're going to do a 2025 NFL Draft preview. So originally I had planned to do the entire draft preview and some predictions for picks and everything in one video, but during my preparation for this video, I realized, yeah, that would be a really long podcast episode. And while some people like really long podcast episodes, I'm not super partial. So instead, we're going to get 2 episodes today. This episode is going to be a preview where I'm going to talk about my quarterback rankings for the draft, my top 20 prospects, which I'm going to give you their name, their position, where they went to school, and my analysis of their skills and their game. Then we're going to talk about where I believe all of the Michigan football players are going to get drafted. Then finally, I'm going to give 3 crazy predictions I have for the draft. Then following that, in a second video, I'm going to do a full 32-pick first-round NFL mock draft, where I'm going to go into detail about the players, the picks, trades that I think could happen. It's going to be very cool. So let's get started. As with every other NFL draft, the position that people care about the most is the quarterbacks. Coming in at 1 in my quarterback rankings is Cam Ward. Cam Ward played for the University of Miami in Florida. He is the best all-around quarterback. He has good mobility, excellent arm strength, and he put up great stats in his one season in Miami at 2024. Coming in second in my rankings is Shedeur Sanders, the son of Deion Sanders. Shedeur Sanders, who played for the Colorado Buffaloes, was a very accurate QB with decent mobility, but he took way too many sacks and hits in college. It was an ongoing trend with him where if the protection would break down, he would continue to stay in the fight much longer than was advised, ultimately ending in turnovers or big sacks or just taking unnecessary hits. Now, after the first 2, which are kind of baked in, that's where things get kind of dicey. In my personal opinion, the third best quarterback in the draft is Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers struggled with consistency at Texas in 2024, but he was a solid playmaker and he helped that team win a lot of games. Most people have him as like the 5th or 6th quarterback on the board. I believe he's much better than that. I actually believe he'll have a much better NFL career than that. So coming in at 4th in my QB rankings is Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart is a big quarterback. He's got underrated athleticism, and he's got great arm strength. Not the best arm strength in the draft, but he's got very good arm strength, and he put up great stats in Lane Kiffin's offense at Ole Miss. Coming in 5th in my rankings is Tyler Shough. Shough played quarterback for the Louisville Cardinals in the Atlantic Coast Conference. He's 26 years old, which is a drawback because of his age. He only had 1 season where he was even remotely healthy, struggling with injuries his entire college career, but he has elite arm strength, the best arm strength in the entire draft by far, though he does need work on his mechanics a little bit. Some people are pushing him way up the draft boards because of his upside. A lot of people think because of his size and his arm strength that they might be able to get like another Josh Allen out of him, but I'm sensing more Daniel Jones than Josh Allen's in Tyler Shough, which is why I have him as 5th in my draft board. All right, moving on to the 6th and final quarterback I'm going to rank in this year's draft class, we have Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe. Many GMs and analysts regard Jalen Milroe as what they're calling a lottery ticket. You buy a lottery ticket, you have a chance to strike it rich, or you have a chance to win nothing at all. With Jalen Milroe, he's either going to be the greatest thing ever, or he's going to be another in a long line of athletic QBs who don't make it in the league. This all boils down to the fact that Milroe is a very big quarterback with a ton of strength. He's very fast, and he's got an insane amount of arm strength. But he doesn't see the field well. He lacks consistency, takes way too many sacks when faced with good pressure, and he commits way too many turnovers. Against Michigan in their bowl game, he turned the ball over 3 times in like 3 minutes. In a rainstorm, albeit it was in a rainstorm, but still, it was like sack, fumble, pick, fumble. Like bang, bang, bang. It was really bad. And it ultimately is what doomed Alabama in that game. And it's what prevented Alabama from really achieving much of anything in 2024. Moving on from my quarterback rankings, let's talk about my top 20 prospects. Now, originally this was just going to be my top 10 prospects, but when I decided to do a first-round mock draft, I decided to expand my research on players. Now, admittedly, after the first about 20 to 22 picks, it gets kind of crapshooty in the first round because the gap between late first round picks and early second round picks is very fluid. So you could have, realistically, you could have about 50 different players who you could theoretically see going anywhere from 25 to 40. So I focused my research on only the top 20 prospects. All right, coming in as my number 1 overall prospect, I have cornerback / wide receiver Travis Hunter of Colorado. He might be the best receiver in the draft, though he is a little bit raw. He's a great cornerback, though once again, he could use a little bit of coaching on consistency. His size, strength, and athleticism, coupled with the insane toughness that he displays on the regular, make him a really intriguing prospect as either a corner or a wide receiver, or as he would prefer, playing both ways. Travis Hunter has been playing both ways, offense and defense, full-time since he was in high school. At Colorado, he averaged something like 120 snaps a game. Now, there were drawbacks to this. Travis Hunter didn't practice on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He would usually do walkthroughs and physical therapy, and then he would practice Thursday, Friday for the game on Saturday, which does have drawbacks with his development, but it also kept his body clean. That was the kind of things they had to do at Colorado. Coming in second in my rankings is Abdul Carter, who played edge for the Penn State Nittany Lions. Abdul Carter was an excellent pass rusher. He was super disruptive, and he was one of these guys on defense who really dictates terms to the offense purely because he's on the field. A great example of this was when Aiden Hutchinson was at Michigan in the 2021 Big Ten championship game. When Aiden Hutchinson was on the left side of the field, Iowa's offense exclusively ran and operated to the right side of the field. The defense could literally take an entire side of the field away just by parking Aiden Hutchinson at one end position or the other. Abdul Carter is the same way. He's one of these guys who you have to account for. He's got such a great first step, and he's got good hand movement and body positioning and everything that he really uses his tools to disrupt offensive play calling. All right, coming in at number 3 on my rankings is Tyler Warren, who played tight end for the Penn State Nittany Lions. He is one of the best tight end prospects I've ever seen. He can run, he can catch, he can even throw the ball. He did all of those things at Penn State. He played quarterback, running back, slot receiver, outside receiver, tight end. He slices, he dices, he makes mountains of coleslaw. So Tyler Warren actually broke the school record for touchdowns, catches, and yards by a tight end, which is absolutely crazy. He also owns I'm pretty sure the all-time record for most total yards by a tight end in a game in Penn State history, when he had like 212 yards of total offense, where he had like rushing and passing and tons of catches. It was an absolutely insane performance, and I'm so glad it didn't happen against Michigan, because that would have been absolutely soul-destroying. Speaking of Michigan, coming in at number 4 on my rankings, you have Mason Graham, who played D-tackle for the Michigan Wolverines. He might be the best defensive tackle in the history of Michigan football. He was a 3-year starter and saw significant snaps as a true freshman. Graham is the best run defender in the draft and is deceptively disruptive force in the pass rush. He's got deceptive speed. He's one of these guys who, as a true freshman at only 18 years old, was entrusted with 2 gap assignments often. He'd get on the field and they'd be like, yeah, you have to do both the A gap and the B gap on that side of the field. He was one of those types of guys who could just be trusted to just take a chunk of the field away from the offense. And going into the NFL, he's one of these guys who maybe didn't flash super athletically at the combine, but his game tape shows you, yeah, this guy's a problem. You're going to have to watch out for him because he's one of those guys who just says, sorry, your game is over. I'm taking over. All right, 5th on my draft board, Jalen Walker, who played edge for the Georgia Bulldogs. He's an excellent hybrid of a linebacker and an edge. He lined up at both in college quite often. He does have short arms, but he makes up for it with excellent hand movement to shed blocks and control contact at the line of scrimmage. So look for him to go very high in the draft. All right, next up with my number 6 prospect, Cam Ward, quarterback for the Miami Hurricanes. Best all-around quarterback, total playmaker. I've already talked about him before, but he's going to go first overall more than likely, but I don't think he's the best overall player. But quarterback-needy teams being what they are, he's going to go first overall, probably. All right, number 7th in the draft rankings, Armand Membou. Armand Membou played tackle for the Mizzou Tigers. He played in a heavy zone blocking scheme. He has great movement skills for his size, being well over 300 pounds. He's good at staying with defenders when blocking, and he seals the edge really well in the run game. He does have short arms for the position, but his size and speed make up for that and make him a really ideal prospect for a team that needs help at either of the offensive tackle positions. Number 8 in my rankings is Mykel Williams, who played edge for the Georgia Bulldogs. He's an edge who's much more of a tweener kind of guy. He can line up both inside and outside, though he can likely gain some weight and be more of a typical kind of big NFL defensive lineman. His technique and athleticism make him a really attractive prospect. So he's one of those guys who's everyone's kind of got circled on their board. All right, coming in at number 9, we have Aston Jeanty, who played running back for the Boise State Broncos. He had one of the greatest seasons a running back has ever had in college football history, though he did benefit from a lack of Power 4 competition, playing for a smaller school like Boise State, who plays in the Mountain West Conference. Jeanty was extremely productive, but it does make one wonder how much of that production was the sheer volume of carries he had and the lack of competition versus his actual skills as a back. He was held to just 3.46 yards per carry in the college football playoff quarterfinal game against Penn State, the second of 2 Power 4 teams that he played in 2024. His 192 yards and 3 touchdowns against Oregon are extremely encouraging, though they did come in week 2, so one has to wonder about the preparedness of Oregon at the time. Jeanty has disruptive power as a back, but is fast as hell as well. He's a good power back who might be able to carve out a role much like David Montgomery has with the Lions, where he's that bruising, punishing back that you alternate with a faster back as a kind of thunder and lightning kind of thing. Coming in at number 10 in my top 20 rankings, we have Colston Loveland, who played tight end for the University of Michigan. He was an excellent pass-catching tight end at Michigan who flourished while J.J. McCarthy was his quarterback. But his production suffered greatly in 2024 due to Michigan's worst quarterback room in the history of their program and arguably the worst offense in the history of Michigan football. Loveland is fast and agile for a tight end, able to line up both in slot, receiver, and play tight end. He's just as good receiving as he is putting his hand in the dirt and acting as a run blocker. He's a very versatile tight end who's going to make plays wherever he ends up being. Coming in at number 11, our first wide receiver of my rankings, we have Tet McMillan, whose real name is like Tetaroa or something, but everyone calls him Tet McMillan. McMillan played wide receiver for the Arizona Wildcats. He is an extremely fast receiver who has a huge frame for the position, which makes him a really great 50-50 ball kind of receiver. He's instantly going to be a player to watch on offense wherever he lands, just because his measurables alone will mean you'll have to really pay attention. He won't be one of these guys who's bullied at the line of scrimmage by smaller corners. Coming in at number 12 in my top 20 players is cornerback Jahdae Barron. Jahdae Barron played for the Texas Longhorns. He only has average size for a corner, being 5'11 and 194 pounds, but his spacing and skill in zone coverage makes him a really hard corner for receivers to separate from. So for a team that likes to run a lot of zone coverage, teams like the Ravens who run that more 4-2-5 amoeba defense that's really popular right now, he might be a guy to really look for. Coming in at number 13 on my rankings is Will Johnson, who played corner for the University of Michigan. Johnson was the best cornerback in the country in 2023 under Jesse Minter's leadership, but he did have a disappointing season under Wink Martindale's decidedly more aggressive version of the 4-2-5 amoeba defense that Michigan has really popularized at the college level. He struggled with the more advanced scheme of Martindale, which prevented him from playing with nearly as much instinct as he used to under the leadership of Mike Macdonald and Jesse Minter, who are an NFL head coach and NFL defensive coordinator, respectively. When he's confident, though, he's the best defender on the field. He's got great positioning, he's got speed, he's good with his hands, he really understands defensive schemes, so he's the kind of guy who, if you're not careful, we can really punish an offense with his ball skills, because he had several pick sixes in college. If my memory serves, he had like 6 or 7 of them in his college career, which is absolutely crazy. Coming in at number 14 on my list is Shedeur Sanders, QB for Colorado. Once again, he's a very accurate quarterback, though he doesn't throw the ball away nearly as much as I would like, which leads to him taking a metric ton of sacks and hits. He will need to work on that at the next level if he wants to have a career lasting longer than 2 seconds, but he is definitely the second best quarterback on the board. Coming in at number 15, we have James Pierce Jr., who played edge for the Tennessee Volunteers. He is the most athletic edge in the draft class. His sub 4.5 40-yard dash and 1.56 second 10-yard shuttle are by far the best in the class at the position. He's a fierce speed rusher with insane get-off and burst. He's tenacious in the trenches, who can really make a hard edge in the run game and really disrupt rush offenses, so look for him to go early. Number 16 in my rankings is Jahad Campbell, who played linebacker for the Alabama Crimson Tide. He's a traditional sideline-to-sideline field general style linebacker who's a monster in the middle of the field. He's a great rush defender who really does read his keys well, and he's excellent at positioning himself on defense. He's one of those guys who you just kind of give him the green dot and park him in the middle of your defense, and he just keeps everything going. That kind of quarterback of the defense type. Coming in at 17, we have Will Campbell, who played offensive tackle for the LSU Tigers. He's arguably the most technically sound tackle prospect in the draft. Campbell sets his stance a little high for comfort, but his size and technique more than make up for it. His 32 7/8 inch arms are a serious concern, considering there are only 2 starting tackles in the entire NFL with arms shorter than 33 inches, but there are those who believe this won't ultimately make a difference. Either way, he is not the highest rated tackle prospect, but he's definitely the most technically sound tackle prospect. All right, coming in at number 18, we have Kelvin Banks Jr., another tackle, this one playing offensive tackle for the Texas Longhorns. He's an experienced 3-year starter at tackle for Texas. Banks is a technically sound blocker who is good at picking up line stunts and containing power rushers. His biggest drawback is his tendency to give too much ground in pass blocking. In the NFL, that drawback might be a serious concern with pass rushers like Micah Parsons and Aiden Hutchinson, who can just bully you if you give them a window. Coming in at number 19 on my top 20 prospects is Shemar Stewart. Shemar Stewart plays edge for the Texas A&M Aggies. Stewart has the measurables you want in an edge, and he has the tape to back up those measurables, but he has a startling lack of production in a serious big-time games. It's a serious concern for Stewart, in my opinion. He only had 11 tackles for loss and 4.5 sacks in 3 years as a starter at Texas A&M. While he has good game tape, his lack of production at points in critical games might be concerning and might force him further down the draft board than his game tape and measurables might ultimately otherwise dictate in other years. Finally, coming in at 20th in my rankings is Nick Emanwore. Nick Emanwore plays safety for the South Carolina Gamecocks. Size and speed are the name of the game with Emanwore. He's only one of 3 players taller than 6 feet 3 inches tall to have a vertical of 40 inches or higher at the combine and run a sub 4.4 in the 40-yard dash. He's a ball hawk with good coverage skills that allows him to line up in the slot or against tight ends and not get lost in coverage. All right, now that we've got all those rankings out of the way, let's move on to the players that played for the Michigan Wolverines. As a member of the Maize and Blue Faithful myself, I will be very interested in where all these different players go. So, for me, I have Mason Graham, Colston Loveland, Will Johnson all going in the first round. I have, and Kenneth Grant. I also have him going in the first round. Josiah Stewart, who played edge for Michigan, I have him going as a second-round pick. I think he's going to be very early off the board on day 2 in the second round. At running back, I've got Kalel Mullings going as a 4th-round pick. His deceptive speed and tenacious running style, I think, is going to be really attractive as a later-round running back selection. As a guy who played linebacker in high school and early on in his college career, he's one of these running backs who really understands how to manipulate defenses and how defenses think. And his punishing running style really carried Michigan's inept offense in 2024 with big runs against teams like USC that really ultimately won Michigan several games. So he'll be going in the 4th round. Now, the other running back Michigan had in 2024, Donovan Edwards, I have him going as a 6th-round pick. Donovan Edwards is a very fast running back, and he's got deceptive size, and he's really good at catching balls. But at this point, we have to face facts that he lacks good vision in the trenches when it comes to running the ball. If the gap wasn't the size of a Mack truck and it wasn't right there in front of his face, he has a tendency to just run headlong into the offensive line and get bogged down and tackled for no gain or a tackle for loss. Unlike Blake Corum, who played for Michigan in years past, who was really good at finding like a second and even a third option in the run game, Donovan Edwards never really excelled at that. So I think that is going to push him down to like a 6th-round draft pick. I think he's probably going to be the last Michigan player drafted this year. We're not going to have like 13 like we did last year. Now, that does leave 2 players left over. There's Miles Hinton, who played tackle for Michigan in 2024. I think Hinton is going to be an undrafted guy who's picked up after the draft and signed as an undrafted rookie free agent. And I think the same goes for Makari Page, who played safety for Michigan in 2024. While he was generally pretty good at Michigan, he never really had those like, wow, Will Johnson is a ball hawk, or wow, Mason Graham is a game wrecker on the defensive line. He never really had that kind of wow moment. So I think he's going to be undrafted, which would put him somewhere in the rankings of like 320 probably, 310. So that's the end of the Michigan football players. Finally, for this episode, let's go into 3 crazy draft predictions. These are things that probably won't happen, but I would not be surprised if these insane things also do come true. First of all, after Jackson Dart is selected in the first round, we won't see another QB selected until the 4th round on day 3. That would be absolutely stunning, because that would mean that basically if you weren't desperate enough to get a QB in the first round, you just aren't picking one until day 3 when you can kind of forget about it. But I wouldn't be surprised, because this is a generally weak quarterback class this year. All right. Secondly, Jalen Milroe will show up to the draft in person as planned, and then will not get drafted until day 3. He will not be there on day 3 to walk on the stage. I do not for a second believe he will be picked on draft night, even though he got invited, which good for him. I hope he enjoys the night and has a good time, but I don't think he'll be drafted before day 3. At least I wouldn't draft him before the 6th or 7th round, just because I have no faith in Jalen Milroe to be a productive NFL quarterback. Lastly, Travis Hunter will be the first player ever announced at the draft as a two-way player. However that ends up being, whether that means the New York Giants with the 2nd overall pick select Travis Hunter, cornerback and wide receiver, Colorado Buffaloes. I don't know. I don't know how they say that, or if they just say, two-way player or gadget player, but I truly believe he will be announced as a two-way player, which would be crazy. That would be one of those things where it's okay, maybe we need to go to a commercial break while we're on, let's add 5 extra minutes to the next pick so we can have 5 minutes to talk about this kind of thing, because that would be crazy. All right, that's going to wrap this episode up. We're at 26 minutes, which is nice and perfect and succinct for an initial draft preview. So after this, I'm going to record a full first round mock draft for Thursday's draft. And then from there, we'll go talk about what's going on next week and my plans going forward. But right now, for those of you on Apple Podcast and Spotify and Amazon Music and Audible, thank you. I know you have to search me out because I'm hard to find. For those of you watching on YouTube, thank you. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do everything you need to do to help spread the word of the channel and feed the algorithm. Thank you, because I know we're hard to find, but we're growing. My name is H. James K. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.